Hi everyone, I'm Zoe. Welcome to my 5th Flosstube episode, and I'm excited you could join me today. So let's see, it's Saturday morning right now. We're having a pretty lazy Saturday morning. We all went to get donuts for breakfast, and the kids have mostly been watching TV, although they just left with Dad to go to the gym, which means I get time to myself. And the first thing I'm doing is recording this Flosstube, and then I'm probably going to go stitch. So let's see, I wanted to start first today with some punch needle embroidery, which I ran out of time last time to show. If you're here for cross stitch, I'm not going to show it for that long, so don't worry, there is cross stitch coming. But this was a phase, a crafting phase that I went through about 10 years ago probably, and I just loved it. I will probably get back to it at some point. I haven't done any recently, but it's a really neat form of textile art, and we still have some pieces hanging in our house, so that's what I wanted to share today. These patterns are both from an online shop called Threads That Bind, and I got the patterns in my local needlework store, Stitchville, USA. I also got the pieces framed there. The designer for Threads That Bind is great. I just like a lot of her stuff. There's a lot of other pieces that I would do in the future. So the first one is, and I am sorry, if you go to her website, again, it's Threads That Bind, you will see these patterns if you go to the Punchneedle page. I don't remember what the names of the patterns are, but this pattern is a barn with a sheep, a rabbit, some birds, sunflowers, just a great farm scene. I love the graphic design quality on this, and yeah, it's all done in Gentle Arts and Weeks overdyed threads. Punchneedle does use quite a bit more thread than cross stitch, it seems to me, just because the coverage is so full, and yeah, and because you're making loops instead of stitches. So it does use a lot of thread, but it creates a great effect, I think, when it's done. And the frame we also picked out at Stitchville, and they framed it for us. And then the other one I have, this is hanging in our entryway. This is Home Sweet Home, also from Threads That Bind. And again, another neat house, flowers. I love that this is reminiscent of a patchwork quilt too. I'm also a quilter, and I love that geometric border going around the house. So yeah, that's some punch needle. It's really easy, and it looks really fancy when you finish it. I think it just has a really nice look to it. So if you haven't tried it, I would encourage you to. Maybe I'll talk about it some more in a future video, but those are at least a couple of the pieces that I made. So now let's move on to cross stitch and talk about current events in my crafting life, which all have to do with cross stitch because that's what I've been doing. I do have a finish. So I finished my Voyage project by Satsuma Street, and it was pretty close to being done, I think, last week, and so now it is finally finished. I'm really happy with how it turned out. Well, actually, I am really happy with how it turned out, but it's so funny because as soon as, literally the second that I finished stitching it, I started noticing little things that I felt like were wrong with it. You know, the border at the bottom may be crooked. It's still hard for me to tell. I think the border is a little crooked at the bottom. That may come out if I wash it and block it before it gets framed. But overall, I'm really happy with this piece. Satsuma Street, I love that designer. I would definitely do other pieces that she's designed in the future. Nice chart, nice pattern, instant download from Etsy. Just a fun project. I started this the first, like a week into September, so it took me about a month to make, and lately I've just been working on one project at a time, so that's pretty much all I was working on. Okay, so that's Voyage, that's my finish. I have another almost finished. So last week I showed the projects that I was wanting to make and had on my wish list on my Pinterest board for stitching next. And I did choose a design. It is called, well, let me double check the actual name of the design. Be Jolly by RedBearDesigns on Etsy. I started this last Sunday, I think, and I am almost done with it. Let me, so I have my little stitching in hand scroll format. So there's no scroll bars in here, but I just clip the sides. So I'm going to unclip those so you can actually see it. And I just love how it's turning out. So it's two little birds and then the words Be Jolly. What I'm working on that is still left are these Christmas ornaments that are hanging off of the birds and the letters at the bottom. So let me move it a little closer. Hopefully that'll focus. I just love this. This is on 16 count white Aida from Joann Fabrics. It's the Charles Craft brand, and the called for DMC colors, which there's only 8 colors in it, which I think is great. It made it really easy to get started because I didn't have a bunch of colors to sort through and figure out. It was just an easy project. So yeah. So that's Be Jolly from RedBearDesigns. So since I'm almost done with that, I am planning what I want to stitch up next, and I have made a decision, and I actually have it kitted up and I have everything I need for it. So I think I might finish Be Jolly today or tomorrow and be able to get started on my next piece, which is Spring Cross Stitch number 5 from the Floss box. So this is another design that was on my Pinterest board that I showed last week, and it's a girl with a unicorn and a rainbow and a sun. You can probably tell from the last 2 designs that I don't think I'm a very cutesy person in general, but I really like cutesy cross stitch for whatever reason. Oh, speaking of cute things, which reminds me, so I mentioned we went to have donuts this morning. That was totally inspired by watching Bendy, Stitchy, Michelle, her Flosstube, which is one of my absolute favorites. She had a donut coffee mug on her last episode, which I love, and already asked for either my birthday is in December, or for Christmas. And I've been kind of thinking about donuts ever since, so we went to our donut shop this morning and had a delicious sprinkly breakfast. So anyway, cute stuff. I like to cross stitch cute stuff. This is a very cute design, and I'm excited to get started. What I'm holding is my binder that I made to hold my patterns. I already had it. I found it in our den in our basement, and I had it from years ago. I was using it to hold like knitting and crochet patterns in these, they're just these, I can find a good way to show it. There are just clear plastic sleeves that I put the patterns in. So I thought I could use that for my cross stitch patterns to hold them, and it worked out really well. I used that for my Be Jolly design too. I'll just show you a little bit of the chart there to stitch it that way, and it was really nice to have it in the binder. So I have my pattern in the binder that I'm going to use, and then I'll show you how I kit things up when I do that. So then I have all my threads, and the way I organize my threads, I just have similar to Priscilla and Chelsea, I have the Ziploc bag, designer project bag, and I like to put my threads on cards rather than having the full skeins. So this is what I do. I'll show you one of them as an example. So I have a card with all of the numbers of the floss. This is an index card that I cut in half and punched holes in. That's all that went into this. So I label all of the numbers, and then I just put a strand of floss. And if it's obvious from the design that I will need more than one length of floss, I'll put more than one in. I just kind of guesstimate, and for this pattern, because it's pretty small and has a lot of colors, I was surprised how many colors were in this little piece. I'm thinking I might just need one strand for most colors. So those cards all then go together. I think there's 4 for this pattern, and then that goes in the Ziploc bag as my project bag. And then my fabric I just keep in my kind of rolled up like this, or sometimes I keep it in the plastic containers that it comes in from Joann. And then I also got fabric for this. So this is from Stitchville, USA, which again is my LNS. And this is the fabric. It's a sky blue color, which is similar to what is shown on the design, maybe a little less gray than what's shown on the printout, but I wanted something a little bit brighter. And it's 18 count Aida, because that was the count for the color, and I'm good with that. I think I'm just restarting my cross stitch phase over the past few months, and I'm still figuring out exactly what count I prefer to stitch on. So this will be my second project since this summer that I've done on 18 count, and I think it'll be good. I'm curious to see, since the last 2 projects were on 14 count and 16 count, kind of what my preference is. I am not sure. It says light blue. I think this is probably either Witchelt or what's the other one? Zweigart? One of those 2 brands, I'm guessing. It's just a solid color. It's not hand dyed or anything. So yeah, that's my fabric for my next project that I hope to start in the next day or 2. Other than that, that's pretty much my whole Stitchy update. I did buy another pattern yesterday on Friday. It was not something I showed on my Pinterest board. It was actually a canvas work or needlepoint, counted needlepoint pattern by Orna Willis, and it's beautiful. I will show the pattern in my next video, but and if you haven't seen her website, it's Orna, O-R-N-A, Willis, W-I-L-L-I-S, and her site is called Adorn. Just beautiful pieces, and I'm really excited about the pattern. To kit it up would cost a lot of money. I think it has mostly hand-dyed silk threads in it, from what I can tell. So I'm still thinking about exactly what I want to do with that, and definitely this the unicorn picture is going to be my next stitch, so I have a little while to think about that. So yeah, that's my update. I hope everyone has a great week and have fun stitching. Bye.